All right, so here we have the rise of Endymion, the last book in this four-book series, and it was all right. The problem is that, as always, there's a lot here that is hinted at, but it never delivers. It never really gets to a point where it's fully developed. There are hints here and there of something tremendous that's just on the horizon, but we never reach it, right? As an overview, I would say that this series was great. I don't really read a lot of sci-fi, but this was really, this was all right. The writing, no, I have no problem with it. There's a bit too much, scientific mumbo jumbo, scientific explanations as to how certain technologies work. That's fine. You did it in 3 books. It was enough. It was enough. Let me tell you, if you want to write good sci-fi, you know, don't try to explain every bit of technology, every single page. Okay, don't do that. You don't need that to have a good story. You have to have a good story, and more importantly, you have to have interesting characters. Okay. Secondly, just like the previous book, Endymion, the Rise of Endymion starts with about 200 pages of Raoul Endymion going on a kayak down the river, right? And when I read that, if you've seen my previous review, you can't make an entire book about people going on a boat or on a kayak or on a float or on a raft. You just can't do it. That's boring, right? That was my biggest critique of the previous book. And here it is explained finally why they did it, but it was still boring, right? But here we have 200 pages in the beginning of Raoul going on a kayak to retrieve the ship, the consul's ship, right? And then, there's a lot of just, I don't know. I don't know how to explain this, how this ends. There's a lot of going back and forth, doing stuff that doesn't really matter, getting a lot of people, and then by the end, Aina, if I'm pronouncing that right, our Messiah, is captured, tortured, killed, so she can free cast away so that the AIs can analyze what she's doing so that they can replicate it. But then she doesn't do that. She is killed, and then we finally find out why Raoul was captured in that Schrodinger's box, and he because he partook in the blood of Aina, the communion. Now he has the ability to free cast, and he escapes. So 2 books about this guy being trapped in a Schrodinger's box, awaiting death, and he just free casts away, whatever. And then we find out that he free casts to Paysom, where the Vatican is, and we find out that Christianity was almost destroyed, the Vatican almost destroyed, because the AIs were pissed off that they couldn't learn how Aina free cast, right? So they almost destroyed uh, the Vatican, you know, and the bad boys, what is it, Cardinal Lordosami and all his cronies, and they just escaped somewhere, and they're just like they didn't get their just desserts because they made it out. And again we have the nemesis, the nemesis creatures that they're just there, they're just there. I wasn't impressed by them. And then we have the Shrike, who also is, I don't know, he is just there, all right? There are no revelations whatsoever, not little. The only hint that we get about the Shrike is that maybe he is a sort of template copied from the soldier Kassad, which makes an appearance here, right? And there's time travel shenanigans going on here that I never liked time travel because there are no more stakes. Okay, if you have time travel, then no matter what happens to you, like no matter what happens to Aina here, uh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if she's killed, uh, because by the end, our boy Raul is reunited with a younger version of Aina because time travel. Okay, time travel. So it doesn't matter how many times she dies because time travel, and here we are. And I don't approve of that. I think that's bad writing because just like in other narratives, for example, Dragon Ball, uh, the first time Goku died, that was fucking huge, But then he died again, and the Dragon Balls, and he died again, and the Dragon Balls. So it loses its potency. It means nothing to the narrative. The audience doesn't care that he dies because we know that there are the Dragon Balls, and so is the same with this because time travel, bro. Just get over it. It's time travel. I don't approve of this. Okay. And again, with this time travel nonsense, we find out that Kassad and Hedmastine, they were brought from the past to the future because they were necessary, and the war isn't over. Okay, this is allegedly the last installment of this series, but yet again, the war rages on in the future, and I don't understand how this is possible. I feel like I've missed something, or there should have been another book because I don't. Was it in the Fall of Hyperion where we kind of get little hints that some crazy shit is gonna happen in the future? We have like thousands of shrikes. We have I don't want to say ousters, but we have human beings that are so technologically and genetically different and advanced that and there's a war waging, and we don't really know what the fuck's going on, right? So something is missing here. There was something that should have been said, and we didn't get that. And this is the final book. I don't know if Dan Simmons is planning on writing another one. Hopefully, because I mean, this is an incomplete work. This is an incomplete work. There are a lot of situations that were and circumstances that were not they were not they were not resolved. Okay, like I said, if you have a character so iconic, so legendary, like the Shrike, you're gonna use that character. You're not gonna keep the character in the background like some sort of prop. Okay, I mean the Shrike at this point is like a piece of furniture. It's like, oh, he's there. And another thing, all right. By the end, these Aina and Raul, they reunite, and then they bring the poet Martin Silenus, and he dies. Right, he dies after 1,000 years. He finally dies on the old Earth, and they bury him, and then they they notice that the Shrike is looming on top the grave of Martin Silenus, and it's like almost morning, right? And that is again unexplained. What's going on here? You gotta explain certain things or give certain hints. You can't just say, "Oh, the Shrike is mourning the death of Martin Silenus because I don't know he wrote the cantos." I mean, that didn't make any sense to me because yet again I felt that something was missing. Okay, something is missing here, and we need explanations. You can't just, you know, there's this there's this theory in writing that which implies, show don't tell, right? And I never agree with that, because sometimes you gotta stop showing and start telling, okay? Because again, there's too much inexplicable stuff going on here, all right? And yet again, we another thing that we find out is we find out that we got the AI core that are again the villains of this series. And then we find out through hints in the previous books that they are planning to make an ultimate AI, their god, right? So it will be an ultimate AI, but then the humans will create their ultimate AI. And then we find out that there are higher beings out there. Now, I don't know if they are alien. I don't know if they are human, AI, or even something else that is so foreign, so alien that we don't really know what they are. But there are higher beings out there that might be completely different from what we know, even more tremendous than the ultimate AI gods that will be in the future. They are referred to as the tigers, the bears, and the lions. And we find out that the AI core is afraid of these guys, right? And then we find out that the tigers, the bears, and the lions, they have sent an observer to observe our characters in this war against the packs, against the AIs, blah blah blah. So we find out that they are this observer from the lions and the tigers and the bears. It is Abatique, the android Abatique, right? And when I found out that, I was like, yo, okay, now we fucking okay. Now that was a twist that I didn't expect, and I vibe with that. And I was like, okay, this could be something big. Okay, this could be something pretty serious. I like that, but it never goes anywhere except a couple lines of dialogue. That's it. That's it. They don't mind whatsoever. They don't really have any real questions. And of course, the android, the observer, he doesn't really answer anything. So that was disappointing. And then by the end, yet again, we find out that the lions, the tigers, and the bears have brought old Earth back to where it was meant to be, and it is revealed that Aina and the lions and the tigers and the bears, they have a plan for the Earth and for humanity. Okay, which, if you read between the lines, means that Aina and these creatures that who struck such fear in the AI, these let's call them gods. That Aina and these gods, the lions, the tigers, and the bears, they have made plans. Okay, without consulting anybody, without telling anybody, they have made plans for the earth and the people, without consulting anybody, without casting a vote, without any consent. Now that is suspicious to me. She did there, and this Aina character. She is very mysterious in the fact that she doesn't say anything, because again, we have this future time travel nonsense, and if you say certain things, it will affect the future, and she's speaking in riddles, and I don't agree with that. I think she could have been more fleshed out. Again, I think her death should have been final, and of course, I think it was in the previous book that it was hinted that Raul would become her inheritor. He will become the next Messiah in this ongoing war, because as it turns out, he can free cast too, but he is not the only one. But he would become her inheritor, and I don't know. By the end of this book, it doesn't really get to that. The problem is that when you make certain revelations that a certain character will do certain things, by the end you have to kind of deliver, or at least kind of hint hint us towards the fact that this will happen. You cannot just say 2 books ago that somebody will do this and it will never happen. And what else? Oh yeah. So by the end, Raul and Aina, they go on this little honeymoon, right? Before the observers, the lions and so on, make their plans. They go on this honeymoon, and we find out that this is how they will create a child. Now, if you've read the previous book and this one, you find out that Aina disappeared for, I don't know, a year and a half, and it turns out that she had a husband and a child, and that wasn't Raul and Endymion. And throughout this book, there's this secondary plot in the background where this guy is jealous of her because she had a previous husband and a previous kid, and he is jealous. Although he doesn't have to be because that was in the past. Blah blah. And as it turned out, again, another twist. It turns out that this was another time travel tomfoolery shenanigans where actually that guy was actually Raul because time travel. By the end, that's what happens. And the child that she had with that stranger is actually Raul's child. And from what I'm getting, that child will probably be another crazy messiah type character. But we will probably never find out because I don't know. This is how it ends. What happened to the war in the future with the many strikes and the crazy technology and the humans and ousters that were so genetically altered that they were so different. They're the problem with Dan Simmons and this series, especially the last 2 books, are problematic because they don't really focus on the task at hand. They are concentrating on things that are irrelevant, which is traveling on boats or on rafts or going to different planets in different solar systems to, I don't know, to fuck around, right? Um, what else? There's a lot of, like I said, a lot of scientific mumbo jumbo, a lot of descriptions that at first are interesting, but then they just keep on going. They just keep on going, which is, it becomes dull after a certain time, right? Like in the beginning, Raul goes on this journey to bring back the raft, and what you know, he gets was it a gallstone or a kidney stone, right? And it just kept on for so long that I was just who was the editor of this book that said, this is all right to be this long. I mean, bro, it's too much. It's too much. Like I said, the previous book, Endymion, it is an entire book about these people going on a journey on a raft on rivers, so that we can finally find out that the purpose of that was that Aina, develops her free casting ability by going on this journey on a raft, and it's just like, is that it, bro? And of course, the 2 biggest problems that I had with this book series in its entirety. Yet again, you cannot have such a special, awesome character like the Shrek and keep him in the background. You cannot do that. That is bad writing. That is bad writing. You just cannot do it. Tell me a series where you have a badass character that is fucking terrifying and you don't use him. You don't use him. You barely make an appearance, right? He's there. He's looming in the background, standing around like a piece of furniture. And I've heard other reviewers say that those Nemesis creatures are way more terrifying. I don't agree with that. I think they're chumps compared to the Shrike. The Shrike that is barely utilized. Okay, so I don't know. That's a big no-no in my book. as a writer. You cannot have something like this and not use it. And the biggest problem of this book, I would have said it is the time travel shenanigans, which is used and is as an explanation instead of giving actual explanations. But that's not the real problem here. The real problem here is the big baddies. Okay, so we have the AIs. We're gonna have the ultimate AIs, and then we have the lions, the tigers, and the bears. Now, the lion, the tigers, and the bears, they're pretty. From what we find out about them in this book, in these last two books, they're pretty hardcore. Okay, they are terrifying. Okay, the AI don't fuck with these people, and again, they are hinted at best, but you can't have something so tremendous, so significant, and just keep it like, it's like steam. It's like it's barely there. You cannot do that. This was awesome. I was like, okay, they're sending observers. They're omnipotent, omniscient, and of course, from what I understand, they have a secret agenda with this so-called Messiah. Okay, something's going on. I don't believe that they're passive. I don't believe that they're neutral. These tigers and lions and bears, they are a threat, from what I can understand, right? And they are barely mentioned. They are never shown except that one time with a Batik, and they don't really make an appearance. They're not, they are underutilized, just like the Shrike. And I'm just like, okay, it's the final book. It's time for you to put the crap out of the way and just fucking, you know, tackle what's really important. Okay, this is the final book. You gotta tackle what's really important. Okay, stop it with the sci-fi nonsense. Get to what's really important, but it never happens. And it's a sad thing because I actually enjoy this series, and I enjoyed the all of the literary references. They were phenomenal. I like them. There are a lot of mysteries and unanswered questions. You know, this whole I never understood this whole Braun Lamia and the Keats hybrid union to bring forth this Messiah because of the lions and tigers and bears manipulating the scenes. I didn't understand that. You know, I didn't really understand the whole hybrid, the based on the poet Keats. Uh, you know, I didn't get that. What was really going on there, right? What else? It's not a badly written series. I like these books. I like the writing in this. But as you go along, book by book, you know, Endymion had a few more references to literature, but by the last book, they are barely present, which kind of tells me that this whole John Keats hybrid thing was just because Dan Simmons admires John Keats, but that's just me. Uh, it's a shame because this was a pretty decent this was pretty decent work. It was a journey. Unfortunately, it was a journey spent on too much nonsense. Okay, on too much nonsense. If I were the editor of this book series, I would say, you gotta drop some of that nonsense about oh, we're on this planet now and we have this crazy ship that has this crazy drive, hawking drive, and let me tell you how it's gonna work. And we have the ergs and we have the Yggdrasil tree, and let me tell you everything about how it works. And I'm just like, get to the point. Get to the point. What about the Shrike? What about these alien god AIs. What about that? What about that? What about all this futuristic warfare that's gonna happen? What about this Messiah and this Endymion character? What's going on? What's going on? What about our seven pilgrims? What about them? What happened? Why are they barely mentioned here? You know, and another thing, right? The seven pilgrims. The seven pilgrims. We find out that the consul got murdered by one of the Nemesis creatures. Braun Lamia died without. We don't know why. Martin Silenus, he dies by the end. Kassad is makes a comeback, and he will be the template for the Shrike of allegedly Hetmastine. He comes back, right? And he has to be the captain of the Yggdrasil, blah blah blah. Um, we got we got Paul Dude and Leonard Hoyt who barely are there, and which is a damn shame because they were interesting to me because they had this dualism, this dynamic relationship, and by the end they have to share a body, and Leonard Hoyt uh, becomes the Pope for some reason that is not really explained, right? And he was a nice character, but then he changes sides. He becomes this Pope figure, and we don't get anything from him, just other than prayings or whatever, right? And then when he has to be reelected as Pope because he died, but he has the crucifix and he has to come back. He comes back as Paul Dure, and Cardinal Lordusami and Mustafa, the Great Inquisitor. They slit his throat, and he dies, and then Leonard Hoyt gets resurrected, and he becomes the Pope again. And that scene when Paul Dure gets his fucking throat slit, that was hard to read. I'm not squeamish, but I felt bad for the Paul Duda. That was a gripping scene. I like that. But yet again, there are no explanations as to why Leonard Hoyt made this decision to switch sides and become the Pope. The Church being just this errand boy for the AIs, right? And another thing, as it turns out, the AIs, they were using the Farcaster portals as a sort of interface to use the human computing power, you know, for them. But then the Farcaster portals were destroyed. So what do you know? The AIs, they made this cruciform parasite, and that is how you use the computing power of every human being. And again, time travel shenanigans, because we know in the first book, uh, Leonard Hoyt goes to Hyperion to find out what happened to Dure, and he discovers these people that have been dumbed down by the cruciform, and again, that is unexplained. Uh, yeah, and again, we have this another unexplained part of the narrative, which is, so human beings will make an ultimate AI. The AIs will make their ultimate AIs, and in the future there's gonna be a war, and a lot of time travel shenanigans are gonna happen, and they're gonna send the Shrike back, and we find out that the cybrid John Keats is empathy, which is, I don't know, is empathy another ultimate AI? Because we have the human one, we have the AI one, and we have this John Keats, who is allegedly empathy, who fled into the past, whatever, I don't get it, right? And then we have these tigers and lions and bears that are way beyond what we really know, that are way beyond these ultimate AIs that are just fucking around in the future with wars and thousands of shrikes and messiahs, and I don't know what's happening. Maybe I have to read it all over again because I didn't get it. What was the point of all of that if you're not really gonna end it with a couple of explanations? Okay, by the end, it was time to stop showing and start telling. This could have been a this could have been legendary, but the author resorted to, I don't know, to wasting too much time on, oh, do you remember Passum? Do you remember Bernard's World? Do you remember Father Captain de Soya? Do you remember Hyperion? I don't know. And another thing that was poorly utilized, it was this amazing phenomenon that happened when you drank uh, water or wine with Aina's blood. You you got certain powers, and of course you also lost your cruciform if you had one. And I really like that. Learning the languages of the dead and the living, um, hearing the music of the spheres, and making the first step. Right, those concepts were interesting when they were introduced, and that they were so amazing concepts that I was like, okay, okay, this is good, this is good. And we find out that once you learn to hear the languages, you sort of get flashbacks of pretty much everybody that ever lived and that are dead, and also of the people who are alive. So you can hear what they are going through or what happened to them, and also you can feel their pain, their suffering. So if you harm them, you suffer as well. You share in the suffering, which is amazing. I was like, okay, this is this 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 is this is on tandem with the whole religious, spiritual undertones of this entire book series. Okay, okay, I like that. But of course, the people of the church, most of them, or at least the main cast of the baddies, they don't really learn anything by the end because they're too far gone in their own ways. They cannot function outside their little box, and they have the cruciform, so of course they cannot really learn anything new. They cannot learn these four concepts, right? And of course we have this listening to the music of the spheres, which is I don't know. I thought that meant kind of understanding where you are, where your position is by the position of the stars, and then kind of free casting away. But it actually is more deeper than that, right? Which is I still don't know how that works, but it is cool. I'll give him that. That free casting stuff with listening to the music of the spheres, that was cool. I like that. And making the first step. And as it turns out, that a lot of people can do that by learning those four concepts. Raoul Endymion is not the only one, and I'm gonna end this review with that. This Raoul Endymion protagonist. He's an average guy, right? He's an average guy with his jealousies and with his envy, and he becomes a sort of, I wouldn't call it simp, but he becomes almost uh, in adoration of this Aina character, which is understandable if you understand this book series, especially the last two books. I would say that he is a bit too involved in her, maybe a bit too in awe of her, whatever. But it turns out that these two meeting and just being together in love, it's fate, it's destiny. You cannot destroy that. You cannot impede that. Which is okay. I get it. I think Raul even says that that he was that he lived so long to meet this one person, to be together with her. Which okay, it's whatever. But this Endymion character, he doesn't really um, do anything that is tremendous for a protagonist. He is an everyman. He learns some special abilities, but it turns out that other peoples can do it. And I think Martin Salinas says that Raul is gonna finish the cantos. I don't know. I think we should have gotten another book. Maybe it is in the making. I don't know. Maybe the author is gonna write another one because I think I missed. I think I missed something very important here. So, a main plot line is missing, and I feel like maybe I wasn't paying attention as well as I should have, or maybe I don't know. He just rushed it, you know. But I think that there should have been another book to explain the whole thing because something to me that is very important to the whole plot line is missing. So I don't know what that is. But anyway, this was The Rise of Endymion, the last book in the 4-book series. Maybe you should give it a try. It wasn't a waste of time. I had pleasant moments, and I had not so pleasant moments with these books. But for sci-fi, it is fairly good, and it's a damn shame because I'm a writer myself, and I could see immediately that this could have been this could have been a body of work if if taken in another direction would have been phenomenal. Okay, but that's what we got, and we have to accept it and move on. The best lesson here is if you want to be a writer and if you want to write sci-fi, you should read books like this and do them correctly or do them better. Don't be stuck in your ways of just showing crazy technology and you know going on journeys to these planets and showing these alien-like people and thinking that that's a plot. You know, it's all right, but it isn't something superb. It isn't phenomenal, as I like to call it. So, if you want to write better sci-fi, learn from this book series and do better. Okay, you have to stick to your main plot here. You cannot introduce awesome awesome characters and awesome plot lines and barely address them throughout this entire epic odyssey. You cannot do that. That is bad writing, in my opinion. But anyway, uh, Dan Simmons, The Rise of Endymion, an overview of the 4 books. It was pretty great, but it could have been elite literature on another level if you just stuck to the main thread of this book. Okay, and that's about it. Keep on reading, and who knows? Maybe you like this. Maybe you will think that this is one of the best out there, and maybe it is. Who knows? I'm not an expert on anything, and you know, this was my review, and keep on reading.